Case 1. Beckett Brown, New York Mills, Minnesota, January 2026. Beckett Brown was 3 years old. On a Sunday afternoon in rural Minnesota, he climbed into an outdoor dog pen at his grandmother's house. The enclosure held an American Bulldog. The attack was swift. His grandmother, 51-year-old Kristen Nelson, pulled him from the pen and drove him to Parham Health Emergency Department herself. Beckett was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. Nelson was treated for her own injuries, suffered while trying to save her grandson. The dog was euthanized at the family's request. American Bulldogs are the fifth deadliest breed in the United States, with pit bulls responsible for 346 fatal attacks between 2005 and 2019, more than all other breeds combined. The grandmother drove her dying grandson to the hospital because there was no time to wait for an ambulance. Case 2. Chris Culbertson, Kansas City, Missouri, November 2024. Chris Culbertson was 46 years old. He was cycling through a residential neighborhood when 5 pit bulls surrounded him. The attack lasted 23 minutes. CCTV captured the entire sequence, the dogs circling, dragging him from his bike, and tearing at his body as he lay helpless on the ground. More dogs joined the frenzy, some breaking through fencing to reach him. Emergency services arrived, but could not intervene. The dogs were so aggressive that a SWAT team, canine officers, and animal shelter workers were forced to retreat. They used lights and horns to scare the animals off. Nothing worked. The dogs roamed freely in the yard, while Culbertson bled. He was eventually transported to a hospital, where he received over 500 stitches. He died 4 days later. The cause: septic shock from his wounds. The dogs vanished before officials could seize them. 2 men, John Thibault Sr. and John Thibault Jr., were charged with second-degree assault and first-degree involuntary manslaughter. Investigators discovered the younger Thibault appeared to be running an illegal breeding operation out of the property. Officers later found 9 puppies in kennels in a back room. Case 3. Ian Price, Stonnall, Staffordshire, England, September 2023. Ian Price was 52 years old. He died trying to protect his elderly mother. 2 XL bully dogs had escaped from a neighboring property through an unsecured window and door. Price placed himself between the dogs and his mother. The attack was catastrophic. Multiple members of the public attempted to pull the animals off him. 1 dog died during the incident. The other was destroyed by lethal injection at the owner's home. The owner, 33-year-old James Harrison Trimble Pettit, had failed to secure his 2 XL bullies, a female named Via and a male named Aries. Prosecutors stated Price's death could have been avoided. Trimble Pettit called it a momentary lapse in concentration. The Crown Prosecution Service did not accept this explanation. He pleaded guilty to 2 counts of being the owner of a dog dangerously out of control, causing death, and was sentenced to 5 years in custody. Following Price's death, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak announced the XL bully breed would be banned in England and Wales. Case 4. The Maremma Pack Attack, Italy, 2024. A 20-year-old woman went for a walk in the woods. She encountered a pack of approximately 20 Maremma sheepdogs. The interaction began peacefully. She played with the dogs. Then a dominant dog arrived, and the pack turned. She attempted to flee. 20 dogs pursued her. Witnesses watched as the pack overwhelmed her. Rescue teams arrived to find her already dead. Police required firearms to drive the dogs away. 18 Maremma sheepdogs were captured. The autopsy documented 44 distinct injuries across her body. The wounds included V-shaped puncture marks, skin lesions with irregular edges, claw marks across her back, and a large laceration to her scalp, exposing the cranial vault. Forensic analysis identified that at least 3 dogs of different sizes participated in the fatal attack. The cause of death was hemorrhagic shock due to injury of the femoral arteries. The victim sustained defensive wounds on her upper limbs. She fought back while the dogs bit through her legs. The forensic investigation revealed malnutrition in the dogs and a sudden aggressive trigger tied to improper management by the owner. The animals had been trained to defend property without adequate control. The owner faced legal consequences for improper training and management. Case 5. Lucille Downer, Rowley, Regis, England, 2021. Lucille Downer was 85 years old. She lived with dementia. Two American bulldogs forced their way through a fence into her garden. Neighbors rushed to help, but could not stop the attack. Downer suffered fatal neck injuries. The dogs had escaped previously. The owner, 44-year-old Darren Pritchard, had been seen hitting one of the animals. Pritchard admitted an offense under the Dangerous Dogs Act and was sentenced to 45 months in prison. Dementia patients are particularly vulnerable to fatal dog attacks. A 76-year-old woman with dementia in Colorado was killed by her own 14 dogs in 2025. The autopsy revealed exsanguination from femoral artery trauma. She had been living with all 14 animals in her home. The dogs had access to her at all times. Elderly victims with compromised mobility or cognitive function cannot escape or defend themselves effectively. And the dogs are usually their own. Case 6. 62-year-old woman and her American Akita, France, 2024. A 62-year-old woman with no significant medical history lived alone with her American Akita. Her neighbors heard screams. They called police. Officers discovered her lifeless body on the floor beside an overturned chair. Her clothing was torn at the sleeves, matching the wounds beneath. The autopsy revealed a combination of penetrating and blunt injuries concentrated on her head, neck, and upper arms. The dog had crushed her laryngeal framework and caused tracheal transection. Her windpipe was torn open. American Akitas are powerful dogs with bite forces exceeding 400 psi. The woman's injuries demonstrated the iceberg effect. Superficial puncture wounds hid catastrophic damage to deeper tissues. The skin lesions appeared minor. The internal damage was fatal. The dog that killed her was her pet. Between 75% and 96% of fatal dog attacks are committed by the victim's own dog. Case 7. The Stray Dog Attack. Greater Moscow Region, Russia. November 2021. The CCTV footage is 40 minutes and 49 seconds long. It begins at 15:19:10. A 77-year-old man entered the frame near the entrance of a building. A female caretaker was striking a stray dog with a broom. The dog immediately attacked the man, biting his right forearm. The woman continued to fight the animal with the broom, pouring water on it, attempting to cover it with a blanket. At 15:20:10, both disappeared from view. At 15:21:45, the dog reappeared, dragging the man into frame while still clamped onto his forearm. At 15:21:52, the dog bit his neck. Both vanished again. At 15:24:44, the dog was still biting the man's hand. At 15:25:22, the man lay on the ground, bloodied. The dog continued to attack his head and body. At approximately 15:30, the man lost consciousness. The dog continued biting and tearing at his body, pulling off his clothing until 15:33. For the next 27 minutes, until 15:59:59, the dog circled the man's body, intermittently returning to bite him. The autopsy, conducted 20 hours post-mortem, revealed multiple deep lacerations to the craniofacial region. Both the right external and internal jugular veins were severed. The cause of death was exsanguination. The man bled out through his neck. The dog's teeth had also bitten through both radius and ulna bones in his forearms. He had tried to block the bites. Case 8. Nicholas Glass, Birmingham, England, August 2024. Nicholas Glass was 33 years old. He volunteered to feed his brother's dogs at a property in Birmingham. The dogs included 2 XL bullies, 1 mixed Staffordshire Bull Terrier, and 1 Bulldog. Glass entered the enclosure. The attack was fatal. His body was not discovered until a day later. He was found reasonably well hidden, resting against a tree behind a fence panel. He had suffered multiple fatal dog bites. Police originally responded to reports of dogs roaming loose. 4 dogs were seized. An inquest concluded his death was a terrible tragedy, with no evidence the dogs had been trained for violence. Glass was just trying to help. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for similar ones, and feel free to drop suggestions for the next video in the comments.